Hey YouTube, randomly picked cake batter chapstick. I'm already just like, what in the world? This is going to be a lot. Let me just jump into it. Brush collection video. So I'm going to show you how things are set up. Let's just jump in and I'll explain as we go along. This is a collab with Andi from Andi Does Stuff, because Andi does stuff and Troll here does stuff too. So the quickest thing, these are my lethal brushes. This is the holder it came in. These are my face brushes. These are the eye brushes. Why does this look so full? Because I purchased additional brushes. So initially I purchased the set. I do have a video for that in my Lethal Cosmetics playlist and probably in my brush collection playlist as well. And it came with, I want to say 16 brushes. Don't quote me on that. And so I did purchase a few more of the face brushes, and I purchased a few more of the eyeshadow brushes. And so I am not going to go through each and every one of these because that video is somewhat recent. And if you want to see a breakdown of these brushes, the entire set when I first received it, and me using all the face brushes in one video, and then another video I used all the eye brushes. And so if you want to see that, just click on that video. And I do actually keep these in their holders, and I just sit them like this off on the side somewhere, and so that's easy. Another one that's super easy, this is from the Rock and Roll Beauty set, and it did come in this case, and honestly I only purchased it because this is completely badass. The brush holder, it's constructed cheap as hell. I mean, it's already like bending in places, it's ripping in some places, but I use it. And what I use this for is when I use a brush, I put it in here, and then once I'm done doing my face that day, I take this into the kitchen with the dirty brushes in it and I wash my brushes. But what's in this one came with, I guess, a powder brush. I still have not used these, and I intended to use them with the Rock and Roll Beauty eyeshadow palettes, but because I had this sitting in the back, which my station is not that big, but because it was in the back behind so many other things, I kept not seeing it. So I still have not used any of these brushes. And so this is a powder brush. They are really soft. This, I guess, would be a blush brush, and some of the bristles are not even. Oh my gosh, like I don't. Okay, let me stop trying to fix that. And I would use this for blending. These are not even either. I purchased it because the canister is badass. That's all I'm gonna say. And I would use this for packing and for lid shade, maybe buff out underneath type of thing, and an angled eyeliner brush. And I really do need to use these or give them away because I've had them for quite a while and have not used them yet. Okay, this is where it's going to get a little funky. I'm overwhelmed already. These are brushes I have not used yet. These are extra brushes. When I like a brush, I buy an extra one. If I really love it, I might have 3, 4, 5 of them. This is a Scott Barnes number 64, which I love for setting under eye. Have not used it yet. This is a MAC 130S brush. I initially purchased this for the e.l.f. putty blushes, and then after a while I noticed it was causing my foundation to lift, and so I didn't use them for a while. But then I used one for concealer and I loved it for that. But this is one I have not used yet, and there was a sale. I do shop sales, and so if I like something and it goes on sale, I do purchase another one. This is a Scott Barnes number 68 brush that I have not used yet. These are 3 Makeup Geek brushes. This one says Outer V. This one says Soft Dome brush. And this one is Defined Crease brush. And I purchased 3 at a time when Makeup Geek was going out as business. And so that's why these are just there and not used yet. And I'm really wondering, like, do I really still need to keep them? My inexpensive brushes. So it does seem like I'm doing the easier stuff first, which is great. These are my non-expensive brushes. And this one, I did declutter some of the BH Cosmetics eye brushes, but these are the ones that I do actually use These three come in handy for the Hourglass face palettes because the pans are small. So that's what I use these for mostly. And this is just a random powder brush. I kept it because it's really soft and I do use it. Believe it or not, even though I have a lot of brushes, I use my brushes. And this one is good for highlight. This is a LaRouche brush. This one is a LaRouche. And I believe I got these from, I want to say BoxyCharm. This is an e.l.f. Putty blush brush, but I use this for highlight, and I also use this one for highlight and for setting under eye. And so these are my inexpensive brushes, as well as these, and we're going to get into these next. These containers, I want to say, are either from Target. Yeah, they're from Target, and it comes in a 2-piece set. And I purchased 2 sets, and I love them so much, and then I purchased more. And so all of my brushes are in these containers. These are my inexpensive eyeshadow brushes. The ones with the white handle, excuse me, these are all crown brushes. I don't remember if I purchased them from BoxyCharm. I want to kind of say yeah, because it's not often that they send an entire set of brushes. You know what I mean? They might send 1 or 2. And I wasn't getting premium at the time. And so I'm not thinking, this is an e.l.f. brush. And so I'm thinking I must have purchased these. I do really like them. I do use them. This is an e.l.f. one. I mean, it does the job. I like this for lower lash line. These are the other LaRouche brushes. And I did purchase these as well, as I think I had just said, with the face brushes that I showed you. But why is this one a darker handle than the other ones? So these must have came in a set with these that I showed you. And maybe this one was just a random one when they send just one brush sometimes with your BoxyCharm. And so these are the LaRouche brushes, and these are all eye brushes. And so as you see, I do have face brushes, eye brushes, and even with the Lethal Cosmetics, I have them separated, face brushes and eye brushes. I like stuff to be where I can easily pick it versus having just a huge mug of brushes and then I'm rooting around trying to find what it is that I'm looking for. These are all Makeup Geek brushes, and I did, as I said, I apologize if I'm repeating myself, I purchased 3 of each, and I think they were 40% off, I want to say, and so they were like $9.99 a piece, and I'm like, $10 for a brush to me is a good deal. And so all of these I have used, 1 of each I have not used, and that's what I had showed you earlier. And so that's why these are with the inexpensive brushes, even though for $10 it was like 40 or 50% off. And so we are done with that. And so what I'm going to show you now, this one will be somewhat easy. I'm not going to divide these up into particular brands. This canister here, and this is half of a Scott Barnes travel canister, and the other half has my eyeliners and mascara in it. These are the brushes that I use for my lash line. I have 2 angled brushes in here, actually 3, because I purchased one from NYX, and so that's in here. So these are eyeliner brushes, concealer brushes. This is my favorite for blending out eyeshadow primer. This one is in here just because it's shaped different. It has a scoop. This is an e.l.f. Putty primer application. So you scoop out the primer, put it on your face, and then buff it out. But I don't use this end. I'll just use this end to blend out primer and or foundation. And also for concealer. So this is concealer, eye primer, eyeshadow base. I do keep my eyeshadow base brushes separate than brushes I use just for eyeshadow, just in case they get stained or something funky happens from the texture of the cream eyeshadow base. I don't want it to mess up like my better brushes, so to speak. And so that is what is in here. Eye primer, concealer, eyeshadow base, and the 3 angled eyeliner brushes. So that is what is in here, and there's a spatula in here for no other reason than there's no other place I thought to put it yet. Okay, this here, I did just have these 3, these are my more expensive eyeshadow brushes. And when I did some reorganizing, I realized that this was empty. And I realized that 3 of these fit in here, which is great. And so how I divided up the eyeshadow brushes, these are my lid brushes. Anything on the lid, outer corner, that's what these are. This one is my crease brushes for blending, or if I'm doing 2 transition shades. And so I do have, I think, like 4 of these. I have 2 of these brushes, and I have 3 of these. And so these are all of my blending brushes. And so again, you see how I have everything set up where if I need a shader brush, I know where to go. If I need a blending brush or a transition brush, or I'm trying to do detailed work in my transition area, I go to that one. This one has all of my eyeliner brushes for either upper lash line or for lower lash line. These types of brushes for my lower lash line. Can't see it. There you go. And so that's what these are. And I'm going to break them down because I'm going to show you per brand in case you want to just jump to that brand, or if you're satisfied right here, you know, you can exit the video if you choose to. I would love it if you stayed though, because I just love talking about brushes. I'm trying to see what is what here. So these 2 have exactly the same brushes in it. I did say if I like a brush, I buy more. These 2 are exactly the same. And so I'll just pull this one out. And both of these are primer, powder, foundation, setting powder, highlighter, blush, bronzer. So that's what these 2 are. And again, the exact same brushes are in both of these. And so I do rotate. You know, I'll put this one up front, put this one in the back, and then, you know, flip it in a couple weeks. So that way I am actually rotating through my brushes. This one is kind of a hodgepodge. And the same thing though, just face products, primer, foundation, blush, bronzer, highlight, setting powder, finishing powder type thing. So this one is not a complete set like the other 2, but it's the same type of brushes. Okay, what I'm going to do now is the face brush sets I showed you and the eyeshadow brushes I showed you, I'm going to separate them out into brand, and we're going to go through them that way. And so there are timestamps. You can skip if you want to see a particular brand. So I'm going to pause. It'll be a second to you, probably like 10 minutes for me, and then we'll be back. Yo, I'm realizing I got a lot of friggin' brushes. I mean, I knew that, but separating them out, I'm just like, ooh, girl. So we're going to start with Fenty. Fenty's website usually has sales, sometimes up to 40%. Sometimes you get, you know, gift with purchase. So anyway, I tried the number 190 bronzer brush. And the first time I used this, I fell in love with it. And so now I have 3 of them. Yeah, I do. No shame at all. I tried the highlighter brush. And the reason I wanted to try this was because of the Hourglass face palettes, because the pans are smaller. And I used this for highlighter. It was perfect. And I did try to see if I could use this for bronzer too, but it was just too small. And that's why I purchased additional ones of these. And so I do have 3 of the highlighter brushes. Like, it just works perfect. Like for this area here. And if you're the type to take your highlighter like all the way up, or if you want to sweep the side of your eye and come down, these are just perfect for that. I only have 1 of the powder brush. Actually says setting brush. And this is the number 170. Let me back up. The highlighter brush is the 120. I do like this, and I was using it for loose powder. It's a little too soft for me for pressed powders, but it worked really well for loose powders, but it was hella messy, which is why I only have 1. So I would dip it into the powder, tap it off, and it would still just be like poof powder everywhere, but it did really work well for the pressed powder. I have 2 of the 110, the foundation brushes. I do like the brushes. The only thing I don't like is sometimes it's hard to clean. Like this is clean, but it's stained. That's the only thing I don't like about the pink bristles, is some of them, do stain, and it takes me work to get it clean, and sometimes I'm just like, okay, I just washed through like 6 times, I'm done. And so, but I do really like this for foundation because you can even do concealer with it. You can get up under your eyes, you can get in the creases of your nose. I can come down, turn it sideways, come down between my eyes, and also I can do along the sides of my temples if my eyebrows are done without disturbing my brows. And so I really do like this one. Also for cream products, if you're using a cream bronzer or a cream contour, or even if you just want to lay, you know, a cream blush and then tap that out. So this brush has a lot of uses for me. I didn't say it earlier, I only use synthetic brushes because my skin does not tolerate natural hair brushes. It breaks my skin out. I have very sensitive skin. I have 4 of these. This is the 230 blending brush. And the reason I purchase more, as you can see, is they stain. That's the only thing I don't like. And even though this is a blending brush, because it's long, I can place my shadow on my lid, and I can take it up into my transition area like I do, and then just do it back and forth and blend it. So this is really great if you do a one and done, or if you don't want to use a lot of brushes. You know, use one side to lay your lid shade, and then use the other side to put your transition shade, and then just blend it out. So I really like this brush because even though it says blending, it's also a great packing brush as well. And I do have 4 of them, as you see, and this one is very stained. I have 4 of the number 210, which says it is a blending brush. This is a stubby blending brush, and I'll explain that later. Well, actually, I'll explain it now. Some of my blending brushes are tapered. These are more blunt, and so if I just want to just straight blend, I'll put this here. If I'm not wanting to have the color move around, like with a taper brush, it'll blend where the taper part is and it'll buff out. This one is for me just straight buffing, just straight blending, just put it straight on and just blend it out. And also I use it for my lower lash line, and so I really do like these. I have 4 of the number 220 brush, which says Precision. I was initially just using these for tear duct area because it is tapered. As you see, it comes to a point, and so for me this was great for, I call it wrapping. If I'm doing an inner corner shade, I will come up a little bit and then wrap it around my tear duct area and then put some here, or I'll just put shadow under here. And so I like it for that, and I can also use it for my brow bone highlight. And also, if you're the type to do like graphic liner or graphic shadow looks, this would be good for that. You can't even really see it there. Let me hold it up here, because of the shape of it, because it is tapered. And so you can do detailed work with this, which I'm just now really making conscious effort to get into doing more detailed type work. Next, I'm going to show you my Scott Barnes brushes, and then I'm going to take a break because this is overwhelming. I have 2 other than the one I showed you that I hadn't opened yet. Number 68. And these are the foundation brushes. I love these for foundation because it's wide. And I can dot my foundation. And I do have a big face. If you have a small face, this will be too big for you. And then I can go through and I can buff it all over. The only thing is if I have my brows done, I have to be careful, because even if the brush is on the side of my hairline, it comes over, you know, over my eye. And so if my brows are done, I have to be careful, and I'm not able to really get in between my brows if they're already done. And doing foundation under my eyes, I learned very quickly. If I just went like this, I was poking myself in the eyes with the bristles. And so I have to lay it sideways and just pat it under my eye so that I don't poke my eyeballs with the bristles. And the only other con to this, even though you can do, I can do my entire face quickly, I'm not always able to get into the corners. And so then I'll have to take another brush, or just intentionally like tap, tap here, and then just keep going back and forth and making sure I blend it out, which takes away from the quickness of just doing my entire face. But I do really enjoy these brushes, so much so that I purchase more. I have 1 of these. This is the 65. When he had his 30% off sale and then the 50% off sale, which pissed me off, like, just don't do that to people. I did try to get another one it confirmed my order, excuse me, and then I got an email a couple days later that the order was canceled. It was sold out. This I love for powder foundation because this is very dense. It holds product well, but it dispenses product well. And I can use this for powder foundation. It is a dense brush, but it's very soft. And I can get into all my little nooks and crannies. So this for me, I can get right here between my brows. I can get, you know, over here along the sides of my temples. Also, what I like this for is for bronzer. I do use bronzer and contour interchangeably. And so I'll put it here and come down here. And then I can do under my chin. I can do the corners of my 5 head and then sweep across and blend that out. And also I can use the side of the brush to tap on blush. And so if I'm having a lazy day, and I'll use this for a powder foundation and then I'll do lightest to darkest. So then I'll do highlight with this brush and then I'll put down blush and then I'll go in with the bronzer and contour. So this is an all-in-one base face brush for me when I'm doing powder product. And I really did want another one. And actually all of his brushes I purchased. Initially, I think I purchased the set because it was cheaper just to get the set. And then when I realized which brushes I like more, when he had 40% off sales or 30% off sales, that's when I purchased the other ones. And so even though his brushes were expensive, I did not pay full price for them. And I do really wish I could have gotten another one of these, but I have no brushes where I really don't need another one of these, but I really do love that brush. This brush I did not like at first. This is the number 66. I didn't like it at first. I have 2 of them, so it tells you along the lines I did start to really like it. When I first got it, I did not like it. It's very flimsy, and it didn't work with loose powders because it picked up too much powder. When you tap it off, it was poof everywhere. And even if you gently tap off, when you touch it to your face, it's poof, powder was everywhere. And so I didn't, use this for a long time. And then, I don't know if it was for highlighter or finishing powder or pressed powder or something, and right now it's really escaping me what it was, but I used it for that, and I'm like, this brush is perfect for that. And then I got a second one. I wish I could remember what it was for. I want to say finishing powder, a pressed finishing powder, because it picks up just enough, and because it is such a loose brush, the finishing powder for me was not looking cakey, and so it just put just enough everywhere, and my skin looked really good, my makeup looked really good. So I found a love for this one, and the reason why I thought I was going to love this one, you see the shape of this. This is a random Sephora brush, number 72 Pro Demi Fan Brush, and as you see, it's a lot thicker than Scott Barnes. This one I loved. I still do love it for bronzer because of the shape of it. You just come straight down. And you can come here and you can contour under your chin if you want to. You can do your 5 head or your 4 head or your 3 head. And so I really like this for bronzing. And so I was so sure I was going to like this one, the Scott Barnes one, but it's too loose and too flimsy for bronzer and for all the other stuff. So, excuse me, I purchased this on a whim. And when I went back to get another one, they were sold out. So I've had this for a while, and that's from Sephora. So that's going to go there, back where the other face brushes are, because we're talking about Scott Barnes right now. I have 2 of these, 67. This brush is a beast. Look at this brush. This is freaking huge. I really like this for if I have a loose powder that's in a large container, because then I can tap this in the container all over and then tap it off. And I will press it, turning the brush as I go, press it, and then go back and blend all the powder. And even though it's a loose powder, because I'm just tapping and pressing it on, it stays. And then when you blend it, it blends out perfectly. If you have a smaller face than I do, this will be too big for you. This thing is a beast. This thing, it's almost as big as the palm of my hand. And I know I have large hands for a female or a woman or whatever you want to call my gender, but this is a freaking beast, and I love it. I just can only really use it, well, not can, but I only really use it for setting powders or a pressed finishing powder. But this picks up well, it dispenses well, and because it's so big, like I'm done super quick. And so I do have 2 of those. 3 of these, the one I showed you, I have not opened yet. This is a number 64. This says it's for like setting under eye, and it works well for that because look at that. You can get almost directly into your corner. But I also found that I like it for highlight. I like it for contour, bronzer. I like it for doing under here. I like it for my 5 head corners and then blending here. And so this has a lot of uses for me too. I still mostly use it for my under eye area for setting, but I do also like it for that. And if I'm feeling lazy, you know, put the sides of it in my blush and sweep on the blush. And then do your contour and everything else. But I really do enjoy this brush as well. These came in his travel brush set. The one that came in here. And I like this so much. I felt bad, but not really. Because I like this so much, I bought another one when he had his 40% off sale, whatever sale it was. And my intention was to give it away. And then I'm like, nah, I'm going to keep it. And so I kept it. And so what was in the travel brush set? And I think they only called it travel brush set because it came in a travel brush case. Because these brushes are full size. Like this is the one I just showed you. But it's not a short brush. And none of them are. But this one, it has, all I'm saying, Scott Barnes X Travel on it. And then on the other side, it tells you what it is. And so this one says Travel Powder Brush. This is dense. All of these brushes are soft. Every brush I'm showing you is really soft. And they do work well for me, which is why I have like so many of them. This I love for blush because you can just lay it. You can just lay it. I can even use the tip of it for contouring and for bronzer. And so I love this brush for that. I can use it for highlighter depending on how intense the highlighter is. Because this is a more dense brush, it will lay down a lot of product. And so I don't use it a lot for highlighter, but I do love it for blush and for contour bronzer type thing. These two travel highlighter brush, and that's what I use it for highlighter. Because the bristles are longer, it is flimsy, similar to this fan brush that I showed you. Excuse me if you heard that. But I love this for highlighter. Just tapping it on, and then I'll go through and just sweep it. That's the only thing I use this for, is for highlighter. These two are Travel Color Wash, it says. This is a big ass brush for a wash of color. Like even for me, it looks like I have a lot of lid space. If you count from my lash line to my brow, it is a lot of lid space. But my mobile lid is only from here to right here. And so if I'm just wanting to do a wash on my mobile lid, this is too big because this goes all the way up to my transition area, which is up here. But if you're doing a one and done, which I seldom do, this will be great for that. You put your shadow on it and you can just sweep it across your eye 2 or 3 times and your look is done. But I do use this for packing shadows, on my lids, because I do take my lid shade into the crease, which is here, and then also up here to my transition area. And so this does work well for me for that because it is a larger brush. This one here says Travel Blender. This one I would have thought was a packer brush versus this one because it's smaller. I mean, it's not as wide is what I mean. But this says Travel Blender brush. And this one I use for packing color on the lid. Like this to me is not a typical blending brush. It may be because it is so stubby. But I will, pack color on the lid and then just take the tip of the brush and blend it up into the transition area. But as far as just blending a shadow, no. I pack and then blend. But you can use your brushes for whatever you want to use your brushes for. The last brush that was in the travel set is the Travel Angled Smudger. This thing, I'm like, I have never in my life seen a smudger brush this thick. But what I found I like it for is if I want to blow out a powder shadow on my lower lash line. Because this is so wide, it's going to naturally blow it out. I haven't really tried it with blending out gel liner, but if I want to blow out a shadow as a liner under here, I will put this here and I'll just tap it, and it's already blown out because this is so thick. So I don't know, I haven't tried it for sponging out liner on my upper lash line because this will not give me a thin line, and if my eyeliner line is too thick, it's going to cover my entire mobile lid. Like, you will not see any shadow on my mobile lid. As I'm looking now, the only mobile lid you see is this thin strip. And so if I use a brush that's thick like this, it's going to cover my entire mobile lid area. Back to the regular Scott Barnes brushes. Oh my goodness, I have 5 of these. This is the number 63 brush. Yeah, I got 5 of them. Oh, I dropped it, but it doesn't matter because I got 4 more right here, and the 5th one is on the ground. This one I love for eyeshadow, for my outer corner. I put the pointy side down, lay my outer corner. If I'm doing a halo look, pointy side down, inner corner, put that there. And what I love about this brush, I fell in love with it very quickly, is when I would do my outer corner shade, I can just turn my hand, as you see, and it would just blend it into the transition area. So it was really just, you know, just turn the brush, and the brush just did the work for me, and I fell in love with this brush for that. And I have 3 of these. This is the number 62 brush. This I use for blending. Now, remember when I said about the Fenty being a stubby blending brush? This is a tapered blending brush, and so it has a point to it, which makes it good for me if I want to just use the tip of it to put my transition shade. And then once the shade is there, I'll put a little more pressure on the brush, let the bristles bend, and let that blend out the shadow. Whereas this one, this is just straight buffing because it is just a stubby brush, where this one I can place exactly where I want it and then let the brush do the work. Or I can even just lay it from the sides of the brush and then go back and blend. And because of the shape of it, if I wanted to, I could also do for under my brow bone and buff out, which I use it sometimes to buff out my shadows on my lower lash line. This one I have 4 of. Excuse me. This is the number 61. When I first got this brush, I thought it was an eyeshadow packer brush, and you see how it's shaped, how it has this thing like right here in the middle. And I was like, I can't get close to my lash line. Like, what the heck is it with this brush? So I went back to his website. This was like years ago. And this is actually a crease brush. And I'm like, duh. And so it's shaped the way it is, which is similar to this brush. And the blending brush I showed you is similar to that shape. But, so in his video, and because I don't have deep set eyes, and because my crease is like hidden under here, under the hood, under all the puff, if you do have deep set eyes, or if you do actually put a crease shade in your crease area, which is here, this would be great for that, because you can place this, like here's my crease. You can just put that there and just go back and forth and your crease color is laid. But if I were to do that, because of all the puff, this would not blend out my crease shade. It would just be like a straight line, almost looking like a cut crease, but not really, because then once I look at you, it's all covered up and you can't see it anyway. And so what I use this one for is for transition shades. I'll use this and lay a transition shade here, particularly if I'm doing 2 different transition shades. And the reason why I like having multiples of the same brush is because I don't typically wipe a brush off, use it for a shade, wipe it off, and use another shade, because I'll take 2 of these. Okay, I'll put down, you know, a transition shade here, right? And then I'll take a clean one, use a different color, put a transition shade here. Okay, now I want to blend it. I'll go back to that first shade, buff it up a little bit higher. Go back to the second shade, buff it up a little bit higher. Whereas if I wipe the brush off in between shadows, I would have to keep reapplying shadows onto the brush. Whereas because I don't wipe the brushes off, there's still a little bit of shadow left in the brush, and I can just go back and blend it without adding more shadow, which may end up being too much, even though I am hashtag team too much a lot of times anyway. And so, but I use this for above my transition area, like this area right here. and I'll take a clean one with a different color and put that over here. And then if I want to do blending, I may take this one and just do small circular motions on the top edge of those shades. And so that's what I like this one for. It is a crease brush. You can use brushes for whatever you want to use brushes for. This one is a number 60, and it is an angled eyeliner brush. I don't use this one that often. It's hard for me to get into my inner corners with these types of brushes because it blocks my vision. Either the handle of the either the handle of the brush or just the way my hand is, it blocks my vision and I can't see where the inner corner is to get that shade there. And so I'll use it for, you know, my lower lash line. And it would be good for just this part of my upper lash line, but again, I can't see to get in here with it. But you can use it for that. You can use it for wings. You can use it for your, what's the word, brow bone area. And you could also use it to fill in your brows with it. However a brush works for you. And sometimes if my line is janky when I do my lip color, I will use this just to clean up along the line. And so even though it's an eyeliner brush, it doubles as a lip brush. And the same for, actually I have 3 of those. Ta-da! 3 of those. And I have 2 of these. And I don't use these that often for the same reason I don't use the ones I just showed you that often. And I do believe this one is a lip brush or an eyeliner brush or both. This is number 59. And again, I would use it for my lower lash line because of the shape of it. And you see how there's an indentation in the middle. And so I'm not really sure why. And so you could use this for brows. Maybe that's what it's really for. I don't know. But I'll use it to clean up the line here. Sometimes I'll use it to blend out my gel liner or my lower lash line. But that's about all that I use that for. So I'm overwhelmed. So I'm going to do something easy. Because I took those out, the Scott Barnes and the Fenty, what's left in my face brush containers, again, you already saw this one. And the reason this isn't with my concealer and primer brushes is because I'll use this one for cream highlight or cream blush. This you've seen me use, let me back up. This is a MAC 130S. This is a Real Techniques brush. This is an all over base face for me. Powder foundation, set my under eye, do my highlighter, do my blush, do my contour. Like I'll do my whole entire face with this one brush. This is a Real Techniques brush. No, it's not. This is a Rare Beauty concealer brush. I actually really like it for concealer because it does fit like right here in this corner. And I have done my whole face with it. For some reason, I don't reach for this that often. And I don't know why. But I do like it for foundation. I don't know if it soaked up foundation or what. I don't know. But I did like it when I used it. And maybe I just like my other foundation brushes more. Maybe. And this is good also for cream blush and for cream bronzer as well. Excuse me for stumbling over my words. The other one, this is, I'll show you both of these. The 2 other ones have face brushes in it. They both each had an e.l.f. buffing foundation brush. Y'all, I love this brush. I love this brush for foundation. I love it for cream blush, cream bronzer, even though I don't use cream products that often. But I do really like it for that. And I love it for foundation. I can get right between my eyes. I can get it along the temples without disturbing my brows if my brows are done. Buffs out really well because it's small. I can get into the nooks and crannies around my nose. I have 2 of those. I have 2 of these. Sephora number 56 Pro Flawless Airbrush. I guess it's for foundation, but I like this for cream blush and or just regular blush because I actually don't prefer cream blushes and cream bronzers. But I'll use this for blush. I'll use it for highlight. I'll use it, the tip of it, for contour and bronzing and all of that. And so I really like it for that. We just have some more eye brushes left. All right, I'm gonna pause. It'll be a second for you, maybe like 3 minutes for me. These are my Esum brushes. I have 2 of these Is it only 2? Yeah. So these are all my Esum brushes. This one is number V33, and it's similar to the Fenty blending brush where it's stubby but not as stubby as the Fenty. And I will use this for blending out transition shades, sometimes even placing transition shade, and I will use it for buffing out my lower lash line. I have 2 of these. This one is the V27. This is a packing brush. It is small. So if you are only doing your mobile lid, this is great because you can just swipe it and you're done. What I use this for is if I'm doing my lids in thirds. Like if I'm putting a shade here and then a different shade here and then a different shade here, I'll use this one just to place this shade here. It's also good because it's on the thin side for brow bone highlight. And sometimes I'll use it for placing color on my lower lash line. But mostly I just use this if I'm doing just an inner corner color. I have 2 of these brushes. This one is the V31. And I used to only use these for, lower lash line work and for tear duct area work and for brow bone highlight work. But then I realized these are good too for doing like your outer V. Or if you're wanting to do more detailed work, which I am trying to get in the habit of being a little more detailed with my eyeshadow looks. And so this is really great for doing an outer V or even pulling out shadow as a liner. So this is good for that. But initially I was only using it under here, and then I branched out to using it in other areas, and I am really digging it for that purpose. These 2 I love because they're angled, and you've seen me actually use probably all of these brushes before if you've been here for a little while, and this is the T37. The reason I like this, pointy side down, outer corner color, boom, you're done. Pointy side down, inner corner color, boom, you're done. And you can even you can use the flat part here, put on your lid shade, and then because it's angled upward, you can just go into blending. So if you're doing a halo look, outer corner, take a clean brush, pack in the center, and just go into your blending and you're done. I love this brush for that. These I don't use that often. I have 2 of these. This is the V09, and I only use this for blending out gel liner on my lower lash line. If I carved out my brows with concealer, this would be great for that, but I don't do that. I don't even use it for inner corner because I prefer a bigger brush for that, similar to something like the Fenty one, because I do have quite a bit of space right here, and this is just too tiny for that. So this one I really only just use for lower lash line work. I think, what was that? I think I've experimented with this with graphic liner. You know what? I did, and I did really like it for that because it is so thin. Excuse me. And so I did. Actually, I really did. I used this experimenting with graphic liner. These 2 I used. This is the T03. They're the same, but one is longer than the other one. And this is more full than that one, so it's always curious to me. But then when things are just made in the factory, it comes out how it comes out. Everything is not always exactly the same. This one I use for gel liner. So when I have a potted liner, I swipe it and I turn it, and I do my upper lash line. The reason I like this one and the angled eyeliner brushes is because I can see my inner corner to get the color there, versus the other one where I'm trying to hold it and I can't see. And so this I only actually use, I'm lying, I use this for upper lash line work, and I use this also, the tip of it, for graphic liner, because I have been experimenting here and there with that. This will be easy because I think I only have 2 of these. No, I have 3. 3 Makeup Forever brushes. 4 Makeup Forever brushes. 2 of them are, what number is it? 234. Y'all, I like my angled brushes. Pointy side down, outer corner shade. If you're doing a halo or spotlight eye, pointy side down, inner corner shade, you're done. If you're doing just a regular look, you can pack this on your lid and then just go straight into blending because of the shape of this brush. I love this brush, and I mostly just use it for my outer corner shade. The only thing is sometimes it's hard to get close to the lash line, and so after I use pointy side down, outer corner shade, I'll dip the tip of the brush and then I'll place that along the lash line. but I love this brush. The other two Makeup Forever brushes, this is the number 210. These are smudger brushes, and I love this for either blending out gel liner or with a powder shadow, just putting that underneath. And now I'll place it and just wiggle first, because if I just go straight across, it's going to create a lot of fold out and puff up into my eyes. And so I will just place it, wiggle it in, get it in there under my lashes, and then I'll gently go through and buff it out. That's what I love that brush for. This is just a random brush, and it is old as hell. It is so frayed. You see this brush? This is a Sephora brush, back when they had the silver ferrule handles. They do not make the silver ferrule handles, well, silver handles anymore, because this is a silver ferrule, but this is a black handle. They do not make the silver handles. This brush has got to be like maybe 15 years old. And this number was number 24, and it says Smoky Eye. So this was just to smoke out your outer corner and to smoke out your lash line. I haven't used it in forever. And so I'm thinking now, and I probably should just get rid of it because it is like so free. And I haven't used it in a long time, but that is that one. This one I purchased on a whim from Sephora, the number 42 Pro Drawing Blending Brush. I purchased it on a whim because it looked really long for blending, but it does say drawing blending. And I really found that I like this for my transition area. And because for me, the Fenty primer is a tacky primer, with this brush, I was able to just take a transition shade and just swipe over my entire transition area, which for other brushes, or maybe just the shadow, I would have to like tap it on and then go back and blend it because the primer was so tacky. But this one, it just works so well, and it covers a wide area. I don't always do a brow bone highlight, and so if I'm blending out a transition shade and it blends out into almost nothing, that's fine. And I like this brush so much. I bought it on sale for less than 20 bucks. I went back online to purchase when they were sold out, and that was within like 3 days. And I was like, damn it. Because if I had known I was going to like it, I would have purchased 2 right away. But so this is what I love that brush for, and I only have one. We are down to our last brand. No, we're not. I'm lying to you. One more Sephora silver handle brush. This one is number 25, and it says Cream Shadow Brush. This brush again is at least like 15 years old, and it is great for cream shadows. And so, and also because it's dense, and any synthetic brush, if it's dense enough, you can use it for cream shadows. But I particularly would use this for the Natasha Denona creamy mattes and her cream to powder formula, because it does pick up well and it lays down well and it blends really well. And so I would just, you know, pack across the lid, you know, do some blending with the tip of the brush. If I wanted to go back and add more shadow, go back in, pack some more on, because your blend is already there. So you just pack more where you want it. And so I really, really, really love that brush for that. We are down to our last brand. Oh, this is where all the eyeshadow brushes were, and now they're like all over my station, and I gotta put everything back. Yes, I'm whining. I have 3 of these. These are all Hourglass brushes, expensive. I purchased them during Sephora Rouge sales for the 20% off. This is the number 9 brush. I used to only use these for just buffing out lower lash line, but it's also good for if you want to do an outer V, or if you want to do, I'll say if you want to blend out a cut crease or something like that. But typically I just use it for lower lash line because it is dense and it is wide, but you can do detailed work in your outer V with that. And I'm going to start using it for that instead of just having it just for underneath, but I really do love it for underneath. These are all the same. These are all the same. I started out with 1, then I got 2 more, and then I got another one, and then the last Sephora sale I purchased 2 more. This is the number 3 brush, and the reason I have these is earlier when I was saying if I do, you know, 3 or 4 different lid shades, I want to have different brushes for each shade. And because this is wide, even if I want to just do my entire lid, I can get it done quickly, even though I do take my lid shades up into my transition area because it is a wide brush. And I'll place the color, and then I can go into blending with the tip of the brush. But if I'm doing my lid either in halves, you know, first half of the lid, I'll either flip it over, take a clean one, second half of the lid, or, you know, first third of the lid, flip it over, center of the lid, take a clean one, third half of the lid, or if I'm doing 1 shade, 2 shade, 3 shade, 4 shades, I have a different brush for each one of those. And if I'm doing one look on each eye, and I'm doing first half of the lid, second half of the lid, I'm going to need these. No, I don't need them. I'm going to want to have different brushes for each color, because then I can go back and reapply that color without adding more shadow onto the brush. So that, my friends, I'm just making sure, is all of my makeup brushes. Thank you for being here. Oh my gosh, Andi. I did mention Andi does stuff. How did we get here? Someone had asked me, I think it was around Vlogmas, or somebody asked me something about the different makeup brushes, eyeshadow brushes, face brushes, or some brushes, something. And I had said that I would do an updated makeup brush video. And I'm like, this is a lot, and I don't want to be alone. Like this. I don't want to do this by myself. I want to share my misery with somebody else. And so I asked someone, do you have, you know, quite a large, you know, makeup brush collection? And one person said, yeah, no, not really. So I'm just like, And so I asked Andi, do you have a large makeup brush collection? She's like, as a matter of fact, I do. Those were not her exact words. And she had said she was going to do, or was working herself up to do, a brush collection / declutter. And I'm like, oh, I have an idea. Let's do a collab showing our makeup brushes, what we use them for, what we like them for, our different types of brushes. And that's how we got here. And so I do thank you, Andi, for that, because this was overwhelming, and it is funner. Yes, I said that word in another video too. It is funner when you do things as a collab, because it brings, you know, our little part of the beauty community on YouTube a little bit closer and a little bit tighter, and then you're communicating with that person and you're chatting with that person. And Andi has a very pleasant personality, and I do enjoy her as a person. And we don't only talk makeup, excuse me. You know, we talk about life things too, and so that's really cool. And so I'm excited to see what brushes she has, what brands she has, what she's decluttering, and why. Because it's the why that I'm always curious about, which is makeup and skincare declutter stuff in general, because it's sort of like a speed review. I'm getting rid of this because such and such. And so it does help me out as a consumer, and I hope it helps you guys out too when you're hearing different thoughts and opinions and perspectives on things. And so thank you, Andi, again for doing this collab video. If you haven't checked out Andi, I will tag her below. If you click on her name, it'll take you to her channel. If you click on her collab video, it'll take you to her collab video. And if you have not heard of her, please do check her out. Tell her Dion the Queen Troll sent you. She does different types of content on her channel. It is all, if I'm not mistaken, makeup related. And she's just very pleasant, and she does interesting things, and she does really amazing looks as well. And that really will be it for this video, except for me to say, I know y'all love it when I go and really don't go. Let me know what you think of these brushes. And if you want any more detail about any particular brush or brush brand, just let me know. If you want me to do a dedicated video like how I did with Lethal Cosmetics, let me know and I will do that. But questions are welcome. Let's, you know, chit chat down in the comment section. And the comments are not only for me. If somebody else comments something, you know, chit chat amongst each other too. That is all fine and well. That is not disturbing any type of YouTube comment etiquette. You know, it is for discussion. And so let me know what you think of these brushes. Yeah, and so I hope it made sense how I broke things down as far as brands, so you can see which ones you want, or if you're interested in. If you are interested in any of these brushes, wait for a sale. That's my only advice, is just wait for a sale. Fenty site is always having a sale. Scott Barnes is on a timeout because I'm pissed of how he did his sale and then had another sale. It's just like, dude, you're just playing with people's money right now. And I have no interest in him anymore. And plus I have all the brushes I could ever want from him. So he's on a timeout. But yeah, I'm really gonna go. Thank you for being here, and you will see me in the next video.